announced the 9th instalment of Resident Evil at the very end of Summer Game Fest 2025, I was quite surprised by the direction that this game seemed to take. The trailer begins with a shot of the outside of an FBI headquarters, and it's always really weird seeing a normal non-BOW infested location in Resident Evil's universe. Inside the building, we follow what seems to be an agent in a respected position, making his way to the cubicle of a woman writing up a report. What piques my interest here is that the report states that a fourth person has fallen victim to an unidentified disease, meaning that we'll very likely be dealing with a new monster-making virus this time around. The man calls out to this distracted young woman. Her name is Grace Ashcroft, which immediately had me even more perked up as I was watching. Those who are familiar with the Outbreak games will have felt the same way too. He calls her to his office. As we can see, she is drowning in files and paperwork, which makes sense for how overwhelmed she comes across. Because of this, I would assume that she's fairly new to being a technical analyst, which, to my understanding, is a mid-level role. But then again, this special agent in charge, who I believe is called Nathan Dempsey, indicates that she's good at what she does. Nathan wants to send Grace to the crime scene, the Brentwood Hotel, which causes a swift change in Grace's demeanour. And I can understand why, because this is where we learn that that's where Grace's mother, the Alyssa Ashcroft, was murdered 8 years prior to this game's story. If you had told me a year ago that Alyssa, a character from a Resident Evil spin-off series that sold poorly, would have her legacy continued on in a mainline game, I would have said you were a liar. We see flashes of Alyssa exploring this hotel, and I distinctly remember losing my shit a bit. She looks exactly how I would have pictured an RE Engine Alyssa. Alyssa was actually my favourite character in Outbreak, and every time I played that game, she was my main. Naturally, this has given Grace brownie points with me. A child of Alyssa is the next best thing to Alyssa. We also see a man in a hood, which actually reminds me a little bit of Ruvik from The Evil Within. I assume we're meant to believe that this is Alyssa's killer, however I could easily see this just being misdirection. This is a trailer after all. Nathan says that maybe it's time Grace faces what happened, which I think is a little bit fucked up given the fact that I'm sure there's other candidates at this agency that he could send to the location. But I'm not going to push back too much because I do love it when a meek and mild character embarks on a journey of peace and acceptance as well as self-confidence. I can picture Grace becoming a total badass by the end of this story. We get some shots of this hotel, and I really love how much it looks like the Baker's estate in Resident Evil 7. I found RE7 to be one of the scariest games in the series, and I loved the dank, dilapidated aesthetic that it had. I loved the beautiful gothic design of Village in RE8 as well, but there were very few moments where I was terrified during my first run of that game. I think a hotel is a great location for a Resident Evil game. I can picture Grace slowly walking down a dark, haunted hallway, pistol at the ready for whatever evil has made residence here. Some of these shots of the hotel also make me wonder if parts of, or even all of the game, will be set in first person like 7 and 8. Resident Evil usually works in trilogies in either story and or gameplay formula, so I could easily see this being a first-person, more gothic horror trilogy. Moving on, however, Grace wakes up strapped down to a stretcher suspended upside down. She's awoken in a sweat and seems to be having a blood transfusion of some sort, but she doesn't seem to be reacting or infected with anything. She has a wound on her chest, which I theorise might be a bite, and there's a man sitting in a chair, another kooky villain for sure, who says this.
I know now that you're the one that I've been searching for. The special one. The chosen one. Miss Ashcroft.
Could she have some form of immunity to whatever this new disease is? Why else could she be the chosen one? If she's not infected with anything, then perhaps her blood is being taken due to her being so special. What we see next was something I really wasn't expecting. It's Raccoon City, or at least whatever's left of it. I never expected us to ever revisit Raccoon City in a mainline title again because, based on what the original Resident Evil 3 states, it was completely obliterated. But I will always welcome Raccoon City. It's the city that started it all. I wonder if the Rentwood Hotel is in Raccoon City. Perhaps people are starting to reclaim the town.
We need to keep our voices down. Please know that you are my hope.
I think this might be Alyssa's voice, and if it is, then I'm really glad they aged her voice to more accurately fit a woman of her age. And I really hope we get to fully explore the ruins of the RPD, which is absolutely designed based on the recent remakes. It'd hit even harder if we played as a legacy character during these segments. Imagine how Chris or Jill or Claire or Leon would feel walking through what was once a monumental part of their lives. This was where Chris and Jill worked and where Leon and Claire barely made it out. I'm not saying that Resident Evil 9 needs a legacy character to be worth playing, but I do feel it would be a missed opportunity to not have a legacy character in a legacy location. The next shot we see is an injured man telling someone to stay away. He's wearing a suit, so I believe he's another agent. I could see him being sent with Grace as protection, or even just part of a team sent with her, which obviously hasn't worked out for them. We also see another agent getting suffocated with a plastic bag by the masked man, and a police officer succumbing to this new disease. Looks like Grace isn't going to be getting much help from others. Also, I just want to say that if this is Rebecca Chambers, then that's amazing, and I hope we get to play as her. This creature here looks very creepy. I wonder if it's going to be a stalker enemy. It has cuffs around its hands, but unfortunately no chains. Why couldn't they get stronger chains? Anyway, the last thing we see in this trailer is this creature, and it appears to be chained up, and it has the same length hair as the creepy wall climber thing, so I'm curious if these are the same thing or two separate creatures altogether. If it's two separate enemies, then God help me. And with all of that, we get our title card, Resident Evil Requiem. My, what a fantastic trailer. I needed something to reignite my love for this series, and I think Resident Evil Requiem is just that. We haven't seen a whole lot yet, but I think this might be up there with some of the classic games. The RE Engine era is proving to be splendid so far. I don't have much more to say other than the fact that I'm super pleased with what we've got so far, and I'm very excited to play this game. So to wrap this video up, I'll just drop some of my closing thoughts. First of all, Alyssa being mentioned in Resident Evil 7 makes so much sense now. They gave us a little bit of a hint that she was on the horizon. Part of me wonders if Alyssa Ashcroft is actually going to be properly, completely, fully dead in Requiem. Historically, whenever Capcom tells us that a character is dead in a trailer, they usually end up not actually being dead at all. Jill Valentine and Mia Winters are great examples of this. Grace looks so familiar to me, but I genuinely don't know from where. She kind of looks like all of the previous female protagonists put together, so that might just be it. Aside from that, however, I think she has great potential as a protagonist. In a world where we have Claire Redfields and Jill Valentines, it'd be great to have a character that is a little bit less aware of the horrors that exist in Resident Evil's universe. Someone that isn't as prepared as, most of the veterans that we have right now. I know there's lots of rumours that Leon will play a key role in Resident Evil 9, and I'm not going to comment much on that because I'm honestly over the rumour wheel and would rather be surprised at what we get. However, on my first watch of this trailer, I did think that this one shot of this man's legs would be revealed to be Leon, so maybe he is in this game. I guess we'll have to wait and see. So I guess that's it. If you enjoyed this video, maybe consider sticking around. I've got some pretty interesting things coming soon. Have a nice day and see you soon.